How do you go about choosing the right lighting for your small apartment? What are some small balcony decor ideas that will make your balcony into a beautiful retreat? These questions and more I will be answering in today's video, which is part 3 of my Ask Me Anything trilogy. If you've watched the first 2 videos in this trilogy, you know that this was supposed to be one video, but I had to break it into 3 because I tend to go on and on when it comes to giving small apartment styling and cozy living advice. And before I cut over to that part 3 Ask Me Anything footage, I want to share a little bit of really exciting news, which is I was in the Seattle Times over the weekend in the Sunday paper giving renter-friendly interior styling tips, and our bedroom was featured on the cover of the Sunday paper insert. So very excited about that. I will link to this article in the description below if you want to read it. It's a really good article and there's some really good small apartment styling tips in that article from myself and from other interior styling experts. All right, without further ado, part 3 of this Ask Me Anything trilogy. The next question comes from Jody Charlotte, and Jody Charlotte asks, any tips for making small balconies functional and stylish? And I do have some tips, although I'm afraid they're not really from my own experience. We haven't really done anything in terms of decorating. We just have a small table and chairs out there. But I can share what my vision would be and what you could possibly do with your small balcony. So first of all, there is some amazing inspiration on Pinterest for small balconies. I would start there. I've done that myself. Seeing what other people have done can be really motivating, and it can give you some really concrete ideas on what you could possibly do with your small balcony. In fact, I would start a Pinterest board purely dedicated to small balcony decor. And then once you've established sort of a vision and kind of a goal for what you would want your small balcony to look like, I would start taking into consideration your limitations. So for example, we live in Seattle, so it obviously rains a ton here. So we can't have, furniture that would get destroyed by wetness. Basically what I'm saying is take in what your limitations are. What will the environment allow? And don't waste your money on things that will get destroyed by the elements. So once you've had your inspiration and once you've taken into consideration your limitations, that's when I would start, having fun. I would think about creating a vibe on your balcony. I would think about romanticizing your balcony. How can you create a mood? I would think about outdoor lanterns and having candles on hand inside the apartment that you can easily bring out when you want to spend some time out there, so that you can light a candle or 2 and just have that ambience going when you're actually out there. I think in our case, and in your case if you live in a wetter area, or at least a place that gets a decent amount of rain, then I would turn to plants. And I say this as someone, if you watch this video, you know that I'm all about the faux floral situation. I prefer my flowers to be immortal vampire flowers that don't die. But if we were to actually take action on decorating our balcony, then that's when I would start considering, okay, what plants would work out here? How could we create sort of an urban jungle out there with what little space we have? Maybe grow some herbs and like basil, thyme, chives, things that we can actually go out and pick and put in a scramble, So those are just a few ideas off the top of my head, Jody. Basically, to sum it up, look for inspiration, consider your limitations, and then have fun. Start creating that vibe, that mood out there in your balcony area so that it can feel like a retreat, like an oasis. I think that's what we should all strive for in our own specific ways. If you have a balcony, make it feel like your own retreat. The next question comes from Shan, how are you? And they ask, how do I determine the right type of lighting, floor lamp, table lamp, wattage, for a small space? That's a very good question because I am a firm believer in good lighting in a small space. Good lighting in any space, but I think it's especially important in a small apartment because it makes all the more impact in a small space. Dedicated Moda Misfit viewers will know that I am very much against using overhead lighting. So if you have overhead lighting in your apartment, I would say try your best to just never use that because overhead lighting is ugly. Usually it usually has a very yellowy orangey cast, and it really just, I'm gonna run the footage. I've run this footage like on a few videos before to illustrate my point on just how much of a difference good moody lighting makes on a small space versus using overhead lighting. This footage is from my studio apartment, and as you can see, it makes a huge difference. So just try to stay away from the overhead lighting. Don't touch that light switch, ever. So when it comes to figuring out the choice of lighting, I would say first of all that you have a lot more freedom than you might think. I don't know if there's really any wrong answers here. The only time there might be a wrong answer is if space constraints keep you from having, say, a floor lamp. Actually, this little area that my desk is in is a good example of how, like, obviously a floor lamp is not an option here. So gotta have a desk lamp. Honestly, that's really the only sort of constraint that I can think of, because beyond that, I would say go wild. Find lighting that looks beautiful to you. I mean, find a floor lamp or table lamp or both that resonates with your specific sense of style. There's really no limitations here. Look for that sparkly feeling, like I mentioned earlier. Find floor lamps, table lamps that really get you excited. For example, this lamp that I have on my nightstand is probably my favorite lamp I've ever owned. I love it so much. I got it from Target when I first moved into the studio. So unfortunately, I can't link to it. They don't sell it. Trust me, I've looked because I would love to have another one. But I love this lamp so much because it embodies my vision. So my suggestion would be to find lamps that do the same for you. It's no easy task. Lamps can be really expensive, but give it a try. See if you can find lamps that really resonate with you and your personal style. And to completely answer your question, when it comes to wattage, I think it depends on the size of the space. I mean, it depends on how much light you personally need. I think as long as the bulb casts a very calming glow, that's what you want to look for. If you have the type of lamp that has like a shade, you can really use any light bulb. However, if you have a lamp like this one or the one I mentioned on my nightstand where the bulb is visible, I would definitely recommend getting an Edison bulb because Edison bulbs look good when they're visible, whereas your average light bulb that you can buy at the grocery store doesn't look good. So that's the only thing I would consider. Is the bulb visible or is it going to be covered by a shade? All right, this next question comes from Paranormal Captivity, and she asks, you mentioned walking and hitting the gym in a recent video. What is your gym routine? Well, Kat, it is not the strongest routine. I mean, just to level with you, I am pretty much the epitome of an unathletic person. So I am not hardcore about my workout routine at all. I would like to become more hardcore about it, but yeah, physical activity has just always been a big challenge for me. Starting way back in high school PE when I was always picked last for teams. I don't have a great experience with physical activity, emotionally and physically. All that aside, I really do love going to the gym, and this apartment building has a kick-ass gym. It's stunning. It has a beautiful view of the city. It's up on like the top floor of this high-rise building, and it's incredible. It really incentivizes me to actually go to the gym. So basically my workout routine is pretty simple, and to a lot of people it's probably a very easy gym routine. I don't know. I start with the elliptical for 15 minutes just to get my blood going, and then I'll do some dumbbell stuff, and then I'll do some abs stuff, and after 45 minutes to an hour, I am done. This is usually the part where I ask you guys if you want some content around workout and fitness from me, but I'm just gonna say I'm gonna take that off the table. I am the last person you should seek inspiration from because I frankly don't really know what I'm doing, and I never have, so. You're gonna have to find the fitness inspiration somewhere else. Like Kat, who asked this question, you can follow her. Her Instagram account is called Frighteningly Fit. So she, at least last I checked, was documenting her fitness journey on that channel or Instagram page. So Kat, if you're still doing that, then here's a plug for you. Follow Frighteningly Fit if you want some fitness inspiration from someone who actually is more dedicated to it than I am. All right, so the rest of the questions can be answered in a little bit more of a rapid fire style. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. Let's see if I'm capable of not being extremely verbose. This question comes from Grant Bowles 94. What are some of your favorite things to do in Seattle? Honestly, ever since the pandemic, I've kind of not done much in Seattle. Kobe and I have very much leaned into our homebody tendencies. So right now, the things I love to do in Seattle are very, very simple. I love to take walks around the neighborhood, and I love to go out to a good dinner. So yeah, other than that, we're not really doing much. Next question is from Mariana Skodels. What is your favorite song from the TV show Game of Thrones? I love how specific this is. I wish I could give you a non-basic answer. First of all, I don't really listen to the soundtrack of Game of Thrones, so I'm not familiar enough to be able to say a song. But I will say that I think that the theme song to Game of Thrones is one of the best theme songs in the history of television. You know, the dun dun da da dun dun da da dun. I mean, that hypes me up every time I hear it. So yeah, I guess my answer is the theme song. I think it's epic. And we have made it to the end. This last one isn't really a question, but I wanted to shout it out anyway. It's from Fables and Fells, which personally, I think that's like the prettiest Instagram handle I think I've ever heard. She says, I love all the cozy day in the life stuff, witchy stuff, creating a vibe, small styling tweaks, all things. And I just want to say thank you for that, Fables and Fells. And you pretty much summed up what I want my YouTube channel to be. Like I've recently said in other videos, I've decided to sort of expand the content of this channel a little bit from, just how we decorate apartments to how we live in our apartments. So Fables and Fells, thank you very much. That makes me happy, and it makes me feel confident moving forward with this more expanded content world. All right, so those were the answers to all of your questions. Let me know in the comments below if you have any suggestions for something I could make a video about. Again, not just small apartment styling tips, although I still am very much all about that, but also like cozy living. What do we do in our apartments? What are some activities? What is the lifestyle of living in an apartment? What is the experience, not just the aesthetic? So if you have any ideas, anything you want me to cover, comment below. And remember, your apartment is destined to be pretty, and you are pretty powerful.